Hello and welcome to the last episode of Innovative Locations in 2021. I'm really excited to welcome Gene Ball onto the show today. So Gene is the CEO of the brand new shuffleboard concept, Electric Shuffle, which just debuted in the US. It's coming from the UK. We at ARCO really enjoyed bringing this project to life in Dallas, and we're excited to see what's next for Gene and the team. So Gene, thanks so much for coming on today. I really appreciate you making the time.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you taking the time to have me on and excited to chat today.
Yeah. So for those who aren't familiar with the concept, if you could tell us, just the general idea, what is Electric Shuffle, and, where are you guys currently as far as locations go, and just paint the picture for those who aren't familiar.
Absolutely. So first thing I always say about Electric Shuffle is that it's not the shuffleboard you're used to. So usually we think about shuffleboard sits in the back of a dive bar. People don't really play it. It's not that. So we try to reimagine shuffleboard and build spectacular bars. Those are our real two big missions. So from there, we look to create really beautiful spaces, serve awesome food and drinks, and create just an amazing atmosphere for our guests in really beautiful spaces. So we just opened our first U.S. location in Dallas about 3 weeks ago now. We've got 2 locations over in the UK, and we just signed a location down in Austin for next summer. So really excited about the growth. People have been loving it here in Dallas, so really excited about the future and finally getting this thing open and showing people what Electric Shuffle really is.
Cool. So tell us how you first got involved with the concept, because it is from the UK originally, and we can tell from your accent you're straight up American. So tell us how you got involved with Electric Shuffle at the beginning.
Yeah, so I was previously at Topgolf working on emerging concepts. And as we see in this industry, I think everybody starts talking to one another with all the social entertainment concepts popping up. I was introduced to the Red Engine team, which are the founders of Electric Shuffle over in the UK. And about a week before the pandemic, I headed over to London to meet the team as they were looking for a partner to roll out Electric Shuffle here in the US. Spent a weekend with the team brainstorming, strategizing how we could attack the U.S. together. Had a great weekend, started conversations even in the midst of the pandemic. And from there, we really hit it off and just kind of bonded from the very start. We function as one team. It's not U.S. versus U.K. It truly is one holistic team, and how we work together, how our organization is structured. So from basically almost 2 years now, we've been working on this, getting Dallas open and really planning for U.S. expansion.
Cool. So where did the idea for an entertainment concept around shuffleboard come from? Was there some trend that you guys were in on early, or where did the idea come from? I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, so I wouldn't say there was a trend we were on early. Steve Moore, who's our founder over in the UK and the CEO and founder of Red Engine, also our sister brand Flight Club and Electric Shuffle as well, actually circumnavigated the globe in a fire truck. And he first happened upon shuffleboard in Katy, Texas, when he was on his world tour. And that was the first time he ever seen the sport. It wasn't that big over in Europe at the time. And that's when he started to first have the idea. That was about 10 years ago. This game of shuffleboard, reinventing bar games, things like that. They started with Flight Club, which has been a wild success. And then the Red Engine team. Red Engine comes from the idea of the fire truck that circumnavigated the globe. They started working on Electric Shuffle, basically revamping these traditional bar games that for a long time have been so popular and so loved, but nobody actually took a different spin to them. Mm-hmm. And so that's where Electric Shuffle really started to be created. About 2016, 2017, they really started focusing in on building out the tech, thinking about what the guest experience looks like, and really going hard. The first location to open 2 years ago in Canary Wharf in London. We opened a second one in London Bridge this past summer, and now Dallas being the third global location for Electric Shuffle.
Cool. That's interesting that shuffleboard not being a big thing in the UK, they opened it first in the UK. And it sounds like it's been doing really well though, right?
Yeah, it's been a huge success, and I think not challenges, but our education piece to guests here in the U.S., where it is a more well-known sport, where it's a known sport game, whereas in Europe and especially London, it's more educating people on what shuffleboard is as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So people know what shuffleboard is here. It's really telling them, no, it's completely different than anything you've actually experienced with shuffleboard. We can play 16 players at once. We make it team-based. We only play one way. We've got all different kinds of games. So we've been seeing people here think it's just normal shuffleboard, and it's not. Whereas in the UK, they're really introducing the country and London specifically to shuffleboard completely new. So two different types of ways we're educating our potential guests on coming in. We know what shuffleboard is. Electric shuffle is just different. They don't really even have a basis for it over in Europe.
Yeah. Do people come in thinking it's, I don't know, like a nightclub for dancing or something like that?
A lot of people think it is a dance club, and we are working through that. Or people think friends, family don't even understand. They think it's just shuffleboard. I'm like, no, you have to see it to experience it. You have to experience it to actually understand it. And I think that's the biggest thing we've learned in the first 3 weeks is you just have to come in and experience it, right? No matter how much we try to explain it to people, no matter how many photos we show, even my family, right? I've been talking about it for 2 years, and they just think it's kind of weird. And then you come in and experience it between our design, the bars we build, the gameplay itself. It's basically an adult playground. We have people just yelling throughout the whole venue because the game is so fun. I've had to apologize during conversations because there's just people yelling all around, and that's what we're really aiming for, right? So we don't allow kids. We want adults to be able to lay back, have some fun, yell, play a game, and just really kind of be immersed with their friends in the game. And everything's built around that, right? Getting off your phones, being immersed in a game together with friends again, just bringing a little bit of happiness to your group. I think Electric Shuffle and the way we've designed our boards and the gameplay really does that. And we see that day in, day out. People are just absolutely loving it here. Once they come in and can really experience the whole place.
So has your family come in now at this point?
They
get it.
Have. And they understand it much better. My mom thought I was a little bit crazy for about a year and a half, 2 years, but she finally understands it, and they all had a lot of fun.
That's great. That's cool.
Yes.
That's interesting that you guys don't actually do any sort of family-oriented marketing. It's really specific to your, I guess, 20 to 30s group. Is that right?
Yeah, and I would go beyond 20 to 30s, right? 20 to 50, 60, right? This is a game really for adults, right? The tables are made for it. We're building bars at the end of the day, really awesome bars where you can have fun. Think about revamping what the traditional bar looks like, right? Amazing food, amazing cocktails that are elevation and changes from what traditional bar food is. We don't want to just be bar food, right? We want to be elevated a little bit better. And we've had that surprise that the food's actually good here, right? Because we don't want to just be an entertainment destination. We want to be a place where you can pop in for a drink, play with friends. And so really revamping and rethinking what honestly a bar should be, right? Taking old school games, old school bars, and really bringing them kind of into the 21st century is really what we're aiming for. So I think we were initially debating children or not, and we just said, no, we want adults to come here, have fun, drink a little bit, listen to music, really kind of take a load off and really enjoy themselves with friends. And so we've really focused on the adult population, and it doesn't have to be 20 to 30, right? We've had corporate events already. People just of all ages really like the game and really like the experience, and honestly drinking and hanging out in a really cool, beautiful space.
Yeah, that's cool. So I'm curious to ask a little bit more about how you've been educating customers, both here and also in the UK. If somebody's not familiar with the game, how are you guys finding what works best, I guess, to help people get it? What do you say to those people who are coming in expecting to dance and they're actually playing shuffleboard?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think what we try to do is, in the early days especially, people get a little nervous when they don't understand something. They're really hesitant to try. It's either, I've never played shuffleboard before, I don't know the rules, I don't want to really pay for it right now because I don't understand it. But we truly believe in the experience, and the game itself is so good that we're just hey, why don't you hop off for free for 30 minutes? Just try it out, right? So the team's been doing an awesome job of bringing guests in, just letting them try, right? We're not really trying to be a place where we're trying to charge you for every minute you're in here. We want you to enjoy the space, come back, hang out for 3 to 4 hours. So if we see a couple sitting at the bar, hey, want to hop on a shuffle table? We got one open for 30 minutes. Just try it out on us, and really just getting people to experience it. What we're seeing when that happens is that people come back with their friends the next day, right? And they want to we're meant for large groups. It's fun with 2 people. We want 6, 10, 15 people at one table playing together. I think we had a group in here for 5 hours. They just played for the same game for hours and hours and hours. So really just giving people free tastes of it and just saying, hey, try it out. If you don't like it, that's okay. We won't charge you for it. Just hang out. People are having fun, keeping them longer just to enjoy the game, how it's meant to be played.
Yeah.
And so really just, I think educating really comes from experiencing it first.
Mm-hmm.
So just having people experiencing, trying it out and seeing if they like it and getting their feedback, what doesn't work too. So it's really helpful for us as well to see how is the US guest resonating, experiencing it, and what can we learn, and especially because it is a pretty new concept, only 2 years old, and the pandemic shut us down for a little bit.
Yeah.
So really learning from our guests what's going right, what can we improve on, what does that UX look like to make sure that every single group that comes in really loves it.
Yeah. So what triggered growth to the US? You know, like it starts in the UK, it seems to be getting enough traction to have more than one location. What led the team to say, all right, it's time, let's go to the US?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think we're seeing it across all the social entertainment concepts. The U.S. loves social entertainment, and there's so much white space here. Mm-hmm. And I think our underlying belief, we talk about it with the London team and the Red Engine team all the time, is good, right? If we know there's something that people love, great bars, great design, great atmosphere, great games, whether you're in the UK, in Australia, in the U.S., people love having a good time. And I think that's our core underlying belief, is that there's such a large population in the U.S. who loves this, and we know that people love having great experiences, and we've seen that traction in the U.K. already. And so for us, it was more just, let's bring this brand and this concept to more people in the world, and as many people as we can, not just the U.S. The team is always looking at global expansion opportunities. So for us, it's just, how can we bring a little bit more fun, a little bit more happiness to as many people around the country and the globe? And that's really, I think, the Red Engine team's mission that we've translated down to here is we just want to bring as much people happiness as possible. And if we do that, we're doing our job all right.
Cool. Yeah. Would you say that there's a trend of the UK having a lot more like experiential entertainment right now? And I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, if that is a trend you're seeing, why do you think that is? Why is it taking off there before in the US?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, if you look at almost every concept, right, in this space, it's been an incubator for it in the UK and then naturally transitions over here. I don't know, they do a really nice job incubating concepts, right? I don't know exactly why. Their drinking culture is amazing. They love to have fun. I think it's revamping that pub life and turning it into something different. And then naturally just pure size of countries, right? US is kind of the obvious next step, I think, for a lot of these concepts, because how large the country is, how much white space there is, tons of discretionary income. It's just from more of a macro perspective, UK to US, similar demographics. It's a natural stepping stone for people and the easiest path to kind of transition over. So I think the UK has some secret sauce of figuring out how to incubate concepts. And then naturally the size and scale of the US makes it the most obvious next step for a lot of these companies to expand to, because it's the easiest transition. And there's just so much white space and opportunity for all of us over here to kind of bring it to so many people over here in the US.
Sure. So when you're saying white space, do you think is what's coming to mind, you know, like mall spaces that are starting to really see a lot of vacancy because retail stores are disappearing and that kind of thing? Or is it just like blank spaces of land where they're wanting to go ground up with some brand new concept?
Yeah, when I say white space, I mean just pure number of markets with a certain point of just population size and density, right? How many million-person markets we have in the U.S. versus the U.K. has. Okay. London's so highly concentrated, but when you think about the U.K. as a whole, they just really don't have the size and scale of markets that we do in the population side. So when I say white space, what I'm really talking about is just the pure number of market opportunities across the 50 states that we have that allow expansion to go much more rapidly and really attack. So when I say white space, I'm really just talking about the pure size and density and scale that the U.S. has, and just the way discretionary income that we have available across those markets that allow us to build a lot, 50 to 100 of each of these concepts around the country and not dilute each other.
Sure. So my next question is a little bit more about the concept itself and specifics around the concept and how you're tackling the problem of customer fatigue. Obviously you guys are so brand new, so maybe there isn't that to track yet. But, you know, when I think of like other existing boxes, like a Dave & Buster's or something like that. Everybody kind of knows what it is. It's sort of routine. I guess, what do you think it takes for an entertainment destination to keep customers interested in returning more than once? Because obviously you guys aren't a Dave & Buster's. You're more of this like boutique, very unique experience. And I guess what point does that unique element, how long does that keep people interested, and how are you anticipating maintaining that draw?
It's a really good question. I think for us, it's actually taking the mindset of not thinking of ourselves as an entertainment destination, right? Like, we don't ever talk about ourselves or think about ourselves or even try to strategize in that way, right? I think as soon as we start thinking of ourselves as an entertainment destination, right, it naturally means that's a place you go to once or twice a year, maybe for a special event. Like, we don't want to be that whatsoever. So we never take the mindset of that's what we want to be. We almost go the opposite way. How do we build just an amazing, epic bar that you love to come to? Because we know the game is so good and we know that people love it once they play it. So we almost reverse the mindset of, we don't think of ourselves as an entertainment destination. We just think of ourselves as a really amazing bar that you love to come to and hang out. So we spend probably 20% of our time thinking about the game and that experience, but we know that's good and people will always come from that. The other 80% of the time is thinking about, what is our design? What does it feel like to come have a drink with us, to sit around with some friends? What is the atmosphere with the music, the lights, all of that? What's the vibe inside the venue? So if you're just hanging out, it's a great place to come. So when we're thinking about it, we're saying, how do we go into these neighborhoods we are the place you just want to go on a date night or for a drink or to grab a bite to eat, between our menu, our design, our atmosphere. And so I really think it's getting out of the mindset of entertainment destination and really think yourself first as a place that people love to go as their neighborhood bar in an awesome area. And then knowing that, yes, it will be an entertainment destination in a sense because of the game and how different it is, et cetera, but really creating spaces that people love to come to and hang out and stay for a while. Just like you don't ask your favorite local bar, why do you come back every other week or every other month, right? You just do because it feels good.
Yeah.
And if that's what we're trying to do, it just feels good to come. And if you can do that, I think that helps us get into the mindset of customer fatigue. It's like, I never get tired of going to my favorite bar because it's always fun. It's always a good time. The music's always good. And so if we do those things right, there's not really customer fatigue or guest fatigue. It's really just, we like going there because we know it's good. We know it's the same experience. And there's a level of consistency and quality that I think changes you from an entertainment destination to just the place you like to go and hang out that happens to have an awesome game and entertainment component to it.
Yeah, totally. How much of the shuffleboard component do you think adds to that characterization? You know, like when we're talking about a favorite bar, that definitely, it seems like an appeal is the menu, right? The menu is a really big thing for a person to come back again and again to a bar, or like the draft, what's on draft rather. So I'm curious to hear about how much food and beverage is a component in creating that experience for you guys. I know you touched on that briefly, but then also the game itself. Like if you could have a successful bar that does great with, you know, rotating draft options and a really good menu, how much more is being added by having shuffleboard as a component to your concept?
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. It's like the shuffleboard is a huge piece of it, right? It is a draw. It's why most people probably are coming in the first time, right? It is the unique draw factor of, hey, let's go check out this new shuffleboard concept, or I've got a birthday party that I want to go to. And so the shuffleboard is definitely the draw. I think it's the menu, our hospitality, the atmosphere that keeps people coming back, right? So there's going to be the initial draw factor. It's like, we know that the shuffleboard piece of it is always going to be the thing that has people come in and they have fun. But it's, hey, are we the place that you want to come play shuffleboard for an hour and then you leave when your time's up? Or do you actually want to stay for another hour or two just to hang out because you're having a good time with your friends? When we start to see that flip happen, which we're starting to a bit already, that's when I think the magic happens for us, right? That's when we're starting to convert people into just people playing shuffleboard. So that means our hospitality is great. Our team's remembering people's names. People are starting to ask for servers already. We've been open 3 weeks, remembering bartenders' names, things like that. When you start turning into just a great hospitality concept, not shuffleboard, not just a good menu, I think it's all of those pieces coming together, knowing that shuffleboard naturally will be the initial draw and what brings people in first.
Can I ask, how do you guys make sure, or I don't know if this is something that you're trying to do, how do you anticipate competition in this space? Do you think, are other people able to build concepts like, around shuffleboard and come toe to toe with you, or do you feel like you've got that pretty much on lock?
I think we're really good, and luckily right now we are pretty much the only player in the table shuffleboard space. If you look at any other trend, there naturally will be a competitor in the next 2 to 3 years that pops up that tries to do something similar. But I think we do have a leg up, right? And it's why I love the Red Engine team over in London so much. We in-house our technology, our design, all of our creative works, and our team, I think, is what makes us so special, is being able to control that much of the vision, the brand, and everything we do in-house. Yeah. I think gives us a leg up. Totally. Not saying there won't be awesome shuffleboard concepts that pop up. We know it'll happen. It just may take a little bit of time. But naturally, if you look at the evolution of anybody in this space, I don't think anybody has a stronghold over any, right? Whether you look at the mini golf space, the dart space, the top golf space, there will be competitors that naturally pop up. I think it's worrying less about the competition, just constantly pushing ourselves to be the best version of ourselves. And if we do that, keep an eye on the competition, but worry about ourselves first. And if we keep doing that and focusing on guest experience, I think we'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's clear that you guys have a really strong team when it comes to design. And you guys have this like almost steampunk vibe and all these really cool touches, like electric panels on the walls, and it's amazing. So tell me a little bit about that. What are you guys drawing your inspiration from? And we're also seeing this buzzword of experiential, in the entertainment space, and not to say entertainment because I know you're trying to stay away from that, but I'm curious, where are you guys getting, what's inspiring you? Who's driving the vision?
I'm laughing because everybody says steampunk, and we try not to be steampunk, but it's like, and naturally people keep saying steampunk. It's really funny. I would say the creative brand vision started with the London team, and we're really evolving, still being new, right? Like 3 concepts in, we're still evolving of what works, what doesn't. I think the best way to describe it, the word we use is timeless, and we've got with a science undertone, right? So when the team first came up with electric shuffle in London, they used this dichotomy of like science and art, right? Science is traditionally a very cold, industrial, basic thing that it's just very black and white. Yeah. Art is beautiful, warm, comforting, things like that. It's like, how do you actually bring those together and make science beautiful? And so I think that's a lot of the elements you're probably seeing, is this industrial cold feel, but bringing a warmth to it. And the London team uses one of the examples that I think is the perfect example, is trying to be timeless, right? Like, you're not sure if you're in the 1950s or the 2050s or 2250, right? It's this weird kind of unknown time period, but it's immersive, it's fun, you would like it, but you don't know exactly why you like it. And so everything's based off of, we call her Tessa, who is our inspiration. Tessa is a female scientist from like the 1950s who loves science but loves beauty and art and fun. And Tessa's workshop and idea of science is very different than what was traditionally done at that time, which was a very male-dominated industry. And so she likes to make things beautiful. She likes to drink. She likes to have fun. So we use this persona as Tessa to say, how would Tessa design our electric shuffles, and how would she make science beautiful, but still our game technology is awesome, right? It's fun. How do you mix these two pieces together? And people just come in, and I think the best word is immersive. When you come in, it just feels really good. And we spend a lot of time figuring that out. And we're constantly evolving it for every site we go to make something different. But that would come from Tessa's mind. So we're constantly asking, what would Tessa feel when she goes through this space?
How much do you anticipate deviating from space to space, I guess? If the feel right now is this sort of scientific art, almost like science fiction, would that be fair to say? Like a science fiction-esque feel? Is that like a through line for all the locations, or do you see it kind of, the other concept that's coming to mind is like Meow Wolf, where I was listening to an interview with their founder recently, and how he was saying the goal is to create something completely unfamiliar. You bring people in, and it's like when you travel, right? And you go to a brand new space, and it opens your mind. And I don't know if that's similar with what you guys were aiming for in creating the space that you have, but do you envision each location being a brand new sort of feel, or is it a same through line with the science fiction vibe?
Yeah, I think there's two questions there. I think one is like the comparison to Meow Wolf and what we're trying to do. And I think the distinction there is Meow Wolf's an incredible concept. I think we actually want to be a bit more familiar, right? We want to be a little bit more approachable, delightful, and fun. You will walk in, it's like, man, it's different, it's unique, but it feels really, really good. Meow Wolf, and they do an awesome job at it, kind of throws you off your entire world, right?
Yeah.
Like we want to do something different, but you really like it and you're not sure why, and you want to stay and you want to feel warm and comforted. So we kind of use that word warm, comforted, cozy, like how to pull that off where it actually feels very, very familiar, but you've never actually seen it before. Sure. So people stay for 3-4 hours, want to keep coming back. So I think the distinction from like what we're trying to do is we want to be fun, we want to be quirky, we want to have that science, a little bit of imagination, a little bit of wonder inside of our design, but we actually still want to be very familiar and approachable when you come. So I think that's one piece. I think the second piece you're asking is, should it look the same every time, right? Or are we going to copy and paste? And our goal is to have not a single site that ever looks the same. You know, there's undertones of an electric shuffle, but you never actually walk into the same one twice, right? And that takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, but I think it's what makes it special, that you can go to a different city and you never know what you're going to experience with a different electric shuffle. We'll always have undertones that we love, certain aspects or certain features that really make us who we are. The game will never change. It'll always be the same, but the design, the experience, the spaces we take, the Dallas building's a 100-year-old brick building, and it's just so cool and so different. We won't ever get this type of building again, right? We'll have different ones we look at, and it's just fun to be in, but we'll never be able to recreate what we have in Dallas, and that's perfect for us, right? We want to be able to create a different experience every place we go, and we're also evolving those underlying brand tones. We've come up with stuff in Dallas, and we're like, you know what, we really like that. We didn't know we'd like that, but we figured that out, and that'll go into our brand book and our brand guide going forward. So always being custom and craft, never recreate the same experience twice, but making sure those underlying feelings, design, game, things like that are still there. And you know it's an electric shuffle, but it's completely different than the last one you saw.
Yeah. So I guess actually before I ask that, I don't know that I asked this earlier, but how many tables are going into each of your spaces right now? And you had said like up to 15 people playing. Is that like the target number? How big is a group size, I guess, that can play at once?
Good question. So in Dallas, we've got 2 bars and 17 shuffleboard tables, which is one of the biggest, and it's about 15,000 square feet. It's one of the biggest places we've ever taken down. I think going forward, it'll be really dictated by the site and size we look at, right? Or the site and location. So I think we're always looking for a great location and a great building and space first, and then we'll determine the number of tables we need. I think sweet spot for us is anywhere from 10 to 18 tables really works. It's just, what does the space dictate? What does the market dictate? So we're always looking at not just, okay, how big do we need to make these, but we really love this area, this space, this location. What does our revenue look like? What do our economics look like? What do the deal terms look like? And how many tables can we fit in? So kind of that sweet spot. Austin we're going to will only have 10 tables, a little mini bar, a big main bar. So Austin will be a completely different environment as Dallas. And so for us, it really varies, and I think we'll figure that over time.
Gotcha.
To your second question on the game side of it, we can have 16 players on the table at once. So, and it's really fun with more people. I think 6 and above we really want to get to, but when you have 10, 12, 14 friends playing, competing against each other, it's when you start to hear the loud cheers, things like that. And we also have the capability to link the tables into a big tournament, right? We can link all 17 shuffleboard tables, have a group of 500 in here competing against each other, playing against coworkers or friends. And so that's when you start to see with these events, it really coming to life. But we have 35 people in on Monday across 2 tables. They're competing against each other, yelling at each other. It's like, it breaks down that barrier, even for like corporate events or your coworkers of, let's just go stand around a bar and drink, and you kind of huddle with your friends. It's like, no, compete against each other. You also get to know people a little better when they're playing games and really hook it up so it feels much more friendly, competitive, and fun when you're interacting with people, right? So I don't think it's anything like people experience kind of even going to bars, restaurants, things like that. And so the more people, the better, and it just adds to the atmosphere, the energy of the place. And so when it's packed, you can really feel that energy, and it all builds on itself. People start talking louder, cheering more, drinking a little bit, having fun. And so we really want to try to build that atmosphere up. So the more people per table, better for us. And yeah, we can have 16 people playing at one time.
Yeah, that's cool. It's kind of like being the CEO of a constant party is how I'm imagining it.
Yeah, we like to have fun, right? And I think that's the big thing. It's just we want to throw one big party every single day, right? And it doesn't have to be a ridiculous party, but just a party that you like to go to and want to keep coming back to. And it's like, how do we create, to your point, that party every single day?
Yeah.
And that's why there's no kids allowed, right? Like, we want people to have fun, right? We want people to party. We want people to have fun. And if we can do that every single day, that's all that matters.
Yeah. So you guys are open, though, during the day as well. It's not just like this sort of nighttime thing. And I would love for you to tell us more about your brunch, your focus on brunch, because you have this brunch special where I think every person who comes in also gets a bottle of champagne. Is that correct?
Yes. And it's a good question, right? I think, yes, the nightlife is kind of where I'd say bread and butter is, right? Where we have most of the people coming in. But why can't you party during the day, right? I'm from New York, and New York brunches, I think, are one of the most fun things in the world. Mm-hmm. And so bringing a little taste of that, but also people like going out during the day and do a little day drinking, have fun with friends, and adding something a little bit different, right? I think we looked at the Dallas market and just more broadly, like, we've got something unique, right? In our game, you can bring 15, 16 friends, getting a bottle of bubbly each, like put a DJ on. Like, why can't you have fun on a Sunday afternoon, right? Like, why can't you party, let loose a little bit on Saturday mornings, Sunday mornings, things like that? And so, and I think it goes back to your idea of entertainment destination versus just a place you want to go, right? Yeah. So if you come in for a corporate event one month, you come back for brunch another, you come back for a nighttime group with your friends or birthday parties, like, that's when we start to become that place that's not just an entertainment destination that you come to one Friday night once a year. You come 3, 4, 5 times a year with us just to hang out and for a variety of different reasons. So we're really big on brunch and making that just a fun brunch, right? Yeah. Like, you go out, let loose, have your bottle of bubbly, have some fun, and just just have a fun Saturday afternoon. So I think we were really big from the start at making brunch fun and doing it a bit differently than you see, where you sit down, you order an entree, maybe you get a bunch of mimosas, maybe you don't. It's like, now you bring out brunch boards, bacon jam pizza, we got DJs going, you eat, drink a little at your table, you play some shuffleboard, and just kind of have fun for a few hours. So that's what our brunch has gone over very well thus far, and we're really just having fun with it.
That's awesome. So is it a full bottle of champagne? Oh my God. Do people finish that?
That depends. Usually if someone doesn't, someone takes their others. But no, it's good. I think people come in and they're like, is it really a full bottle? It's like, yes, it's just a full bottle, right? It's not like people think, oh, it's just like a mini bottle. It's like, no, get your own bottle.
Yeah.
There's no skimping you there. You get the bottle, we open it in front of you, so you know you're getting a whole bottle of it. And so we have a non-boozy option too, that where people don't have to drink a whole bottle of bubbly if they're not feeling it.
Yeah.
We got some awesome brunch cocktails they can order off the menu. So just about making that party vibe all day long, I think is the big thing for us. Is brunch is not fun if you just kind of have one mimosa, eat an entree, and leave. Right? Like, that's not who we are. And so we want to do something that's more on brand for us.
Yeah, very cool. So is brunch really just focused on the weekends, or are you seeing traffic even coming in weekdays for that?
No, it's just Saturdays and Sundays right now. So for us, it's just Saturdays and Sundays. I don't think people are drinking whole bottles of bubbly during like Wednesday lunches or things like that. So for now, it's Saturdays and Sundays, and then still open for lunch during the week. Like I said, once again, not just being known as an entertainment nighttime district, right? Closing till 4 or 5 o'clock. People will naturally think of you as a nighttime place. So come in, we've got some great salads, sandwiches, things like that. Hey, if you want to go grab a quick lunch with some coworkers, being a place that does that.
Yeah.
We're not being the place that's going to be packed out for lunch service, but hey, people check us out, come in and just have another avenue to experience us in a different way.
Yeah. Very cool. So how are you feeling about the first location? And also, how did you choose Dallas, specifically Deep Ellum?
Yeah, it's a good question. So we'll start with how do we choose Dallas, then Deep Ellum, and then how are we feeling about the first location. So Dallas specifically, I was living here, and also it's just been a great incubator for hospitality concepts, right? Dave & Buster's, Topgolf, we've got a couple other popping up here.
Yeah.
And just in the hospitality space. So I think Dallas as a whole has always been just a great space to launch hospitality concepts. It's very central to the U.S. It's got a good demographic that's represented in the rest of the country. So for all kind of the macro factors, Dallas always made a lot of sense to launch the brand. And we're also very familiar with the market. And I think that was big to us, going to a place that we knew and we were familiar with so we could learn a lot versus going to somewhere else where we'd have to really understand the market a lot more than someplace we already knew. Mm-hmm. With that level of understanding, we then started looking at each neighborhood. And we had a couple on the list, but I think in our hearts, we always wanted to be in Deep Ellum and part of this community. People who haven't been there, it's just this awesome old school entertainment district that's gone through waves of Dallas history and just like different time periods. Yeah. That's really starting to develop into this mixed use development, right? Which is cool entertainment, nightlife, awesome new office spaces, old brick buildings, really cool speakeasies, fun bars. It's just got this variety and soul to it. Mm-hmm. Graffiti murals all over the walls, all over the district. And so I think we always knew we wanted to be in Deep Ellum if we could find the right location. There's just something about the soul and the area itself that like fits the brand we're trying to build, but also something that we could add to the community in a neighborhood. So that was Deep Ellum for us. We kind of knew from the beginning. And then it was, okay, is there a space or building, because the district's not that big, that fits us? Mm-hmm. Then we happened upon our building, which is, like I said, 100 years old brick. It was abandoned for I don't know how many years. And we walked in. As soon as we walked in, we knew like we need to make this ours. It was just so cool to pass up. And so it really is a really amazing building that, like I said, it's immersive. You walk in and it's like nothing you've ever seen before. We transformed the old elevator shaft, because it used to be an old freight elevator, into this library room that's triple height ceilings with this bookcase that has this back study speakeasy feel that we call the library. Mm-hmm. With 2 shuffle tables in, you can rent out. So things like that of just having fun with the space, and the support of the Red Engine and London team to take this amazing building and transform into something our own with the exposed brick and everything about it. Couldn't be happier about it. It has been just so cool to see it come to life and watch people's reactions who saw it at the beginning through construction and then come in for the finished product. And people who've never even seen it before, the Deep Ellum community has been walking in, they're like, we never thought anybody would take this building, and they did, right? And like seeing just the reaction from the community and the welcoming of the neighborhood has been an awesome experience, and just really excited for having more and more people experience and see it. And honestly, give back to the community itself, right? We think brands and companies like ours can help the Deep Ellum neighborhood continue to grow, continue to get better, add something different, and help everybody in the neighborhood get a bit better and bring some more people down to the neighborhood. So we're excited to be part of the community, part of this district specifically, and Dallas as a whole. Very cool.
So are there any specific territories that you're looking at next? Obviously, you're moving on to Austin. And is the focus specifically on Texas right now, or do you guys think you'll be expanding to other states soon?
No, it's not specifically Texas. We just found a place we absolutely love down near Rainey Street in Austin, and we couldn't pass that up. So no, we're looking, I think, like every other entertainment concept, at the major metros right across the U.S. Mm-hmm. Nashville, Denver, Chicago, Atlanta, Brooklyn, right? Like basically the list of the top 25 to 50 markets, and just going down that list based on size and population and macroeconomic factors, and really, though, still being selective of places that fit our soul and our vibe, right? Mm-hmm. So Austin and Dallas are very different from one each other. The buildings we're taking over, we're going through a new office development there. But Rainey Street, if you've ever been down there, has that soul and that environment of fun, quirkiness on brand. And so really being specific of where are we going, why are we going there, does our brand fit there? Not just is it a good spot, is how does it fit and integrate and reflect the Electric Shuffle brand? So looking, I would say, all over the country at being selective about what opportunities we choose and making sure that we really feel good about it. But yes, looking at all the same, probably top 25 markets that every other social entertainment concept is looking at.
Yeah, that's interesting to be focused on the whole district and the vibe. I think in some conversations I've had, it seems like there's more focus on just the building itself. But for you guys, that's probably still something that comes into consideration. What makes a perfect ideal location for Electric Shuffle? And are you guys only looking at like retrofitting and taking spaces such as an abandoned warehouse or abandoned building?
Definitely not. I think I have a soft spot for retrofitting and redevelopment. I think it's so cool and really helps neighborhoods and really adds some value to stuff that honestly get forgotten about or torn down. And so I know I have a soft spot when I see old buildings that look like they're about to fall over. I'm like, this looks perfect.
Yeah.
I think from an investor side, from an ARCO side, constructing those buildings, as we learned with Dallas, come with a whole set of challenges that make it a lot more difficult. But no, I think it really is looking at the whole picture, right? Mm-hmm. The aesthetic, the feel of the building, all of that. What are the deal terms and economics? What's the market, the area, the district look like? And so, Austin's a completely brand new build, right? So almost a dichotomy exactly of what Dallas's building was, and not pigeonholing ourselves saying we need to be so specific, this size, this location, this corner, or anything like that. Yeah. Just taking a holistic approach across all of those things, aesthetic, deal terms, area, demographics, all of that, right. And saying, okay, do we holistically feel good about this space when we look at them? So not having a very specific set, just thinking about the holistic picture and kind of balancing all of those factors when we go location to location.
Got it. Cool. So, I mean, there's risks with any business to start out there, but I'm curious to hear what you see as being maybe the sector specific risks involved with a concept like yours, and how does that compare maybe to other restaurants or food and beverage concepts or places that have games, and how are you guys anticipating mitigating those risks?
Yep. It's a good question. I think there's two sides to that, right? One, and I won't probably go into too much of the macro COVID, like world pandemic risks. I think those are obvious for everybody in this industry in the sense that we are playing with fire a bit, right? And it's like before the pandemic, we never thought the hospitality industry could completely shut down and take a big step backwards. Now we know that's also a very real risk in this industry. So I think everybody's walking a bit more carefully. Granted, we're seeing such a huge rebound in the space because people still want to come back together. And I think there's that underlying belief that as humans, we still want to see friends. We still want to enjoy each other's company. And we really missed that during the pandemic. So I think there will always be that underlying macro risk of a pandemic, COVID, et cetera, that could really take us a step back. I think more specifically for location-based entertainment and just our types of concepts, and I mean the industry as a whole, the benefits are we have the game revenue. Right. So as we think about us versus a bar or restaurant, we just have that extra level of revenue, margin, et cetera, that allows us to be a little bit more protected on some of those down times or slow times, where restaurants and bars, you're playing with razor thin margins, right? Especially with rising food costs, rising labor costs, like basically a lot of headwinds in the industry that are saying it's harder to make money, especially as we just see a lot of these changes. And so service models having to change, all of that. We have a bit more flexibility naturally by having this cushion of game revenue that allows us to kind of be a bit more protected from some of those headwinds. Not saying we don't feel those pressures as well, but anybody who has that extra layer of game revenue makes us, one, a bit more protected, but a bit more attractive from signing leases for potential landlords and stuff, because they know they're protected on the landlord side of having, even as margins get a bit thinner, they're better than bars or restaurants. So that is a nice part of it. I think the flip side of it is, especially with us in technology, PudCheck has this, right? When you have the technology component, that also means higher CapEx, right? So we need to spend a bit more. So you're making bigger bets across the country, which then means you have to be a bit more successful to offset that bigger CapEx. So I think that's kind of the balance of having the game side and then how we compare to bars and restaurants. I think your point on not being fad is the hard one, right? It's like, how do we continue? And like, yes, we don't want to be an entertainment destination, but not being labeled as one, right? And how do we not be the place that you come to once, that was fun, I'm never coming back. And so for us, we talk about this a lot with the team. It's atmosphere and it's hospitality, right? It comes down to those two things, right? I think the product we know will get you in the first time, but if the atmosphere and hospitality, it'll keep coming back. So we really stress that to the team, right? It's like the game will bring them in the first time, like we talked about a little earlier on the call, but how do we make sure that our team is doing an amazing job day in, day out? And that's what I think I've been most proud of the first 3 weeks. Like, we moved into this building a week before we opened. The team's reviews have been amazing. Like, everybody leaving doesn't comment on the game. They comment on how awesome the team was. And like, that makes me really proud of how awesome this team has done in setting up this place to be a great hospitality concept. And I keep using that word first because that's what I think makes us different and makes you want to come back to a place, because we made you feel really good, not because you got to try something new and different. That is when you become a fad. And so I think really focusing on atmosphere and hospitality and that recurring guest coming back, because it just feels good to come here. We know your name, we remember your orders, we say hi to you at the front door. Those little things actually stack up with making a person feel good and feel human again. And so I think really focusing on that and not getting ahead of ourselves that we're cool or different enough that we're better than good hospitality. So good hospitality comes first. You know, the underlying experience is good and product's good, but really focusing in on that I think is really, really important, and not forgetting that hospitality first, everything else second.
Yeah. That's impressive to have built a team like that that's so strong in hospitality, especially right now because of labor shortages. I mean, even in my own town, I've seen restaurants shut down temporarily just because they don't have the staff. I'm wondering if you're facing, or if you had to face any of those challenges, and how you overcame them by building this incredible team.
Yeah, knock on wood, we haven't honestly had many issues with any of that, luckily. I think and I give all of this credit to our venue team, Blake, and then the rest of Blake, who's our director of operations, and the rest of the team. Like, we literally didn't have a venue to train in, right? So we trained in a warehouse down the road, and set up makeshift shuffle tables, set up a fake venue. It almost forced us, the constraints almost forced us to be a bit more creative and really focus on culture and atmosphere from day one without having a venue that we could train in.
Yeah.
And so we've been really good. Our team's been awesome. And I know it gets harder as being a new concept helps that a little bit. But I just give all the credit to the team of really focusing in on the energy, the culture, the atmosphere they bring every single day.
Yeah.
I think the one thing we talk about a lot is we want our guests to be happy and have fun, but that has to start with the team, right? So when we interview, from when we hire, to the onboarding process, to training, to what their shifts feel like, all of that has to be fun, right? If we're asking our guests to have fun, and then we're really strict with the team, and we're not having fun with the team and how we interview and how we hire, how is that supposed to translate to the guests? And it doesn't, right? And so I think we took a step back and said, how do we focus on treating the team with hospitality and making every person feel human? Yeah. And I think we forget a little bit about these with labor shortages is we don't do 15-minute interviews where you're distracted. We have fun, we have games, we have all this stuff. So making sure that we start with our team first and making sure they're having fun, even if they don't get hired, from the candidate all the way through to when they're on the floor with us. And then that should naturally translate to the guests. So I give all the credit to the venue and the ops team of doing that, because they have been unbelievable at staffing this venue fully, having a team that loves being here, and also just having great guest reviews and great guest comments day in and day out. And so I think if we take a step back over the past 6 months, that's what I'm most proud of the team about, is being able to accomplish that, especially in the environment we're seeing across the country with shortages, impossible to keep team members, things like that. And so all credit goes there to the venue ops team.
That's awesome. That's a great point. Yeah, because how can you create that experience for your guests if your servers and your operations team aren't having fun? That's a really good takeaway. Since we are a little bit running longer here, I'm going to go to the last question, which is actually from one of our audience members. They're looking to understand really the relationship of Designbuild. Designbuild is what we did together on the Deep Ellum location. And the idea of Designbuild is that you let the owner have a single point of contact during design and construction, just to consolidate everything and streamline the process. But their question is, are there any scopes that you feel are best coordinated by the Designbuild team but still contracted direct through the owner?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think there's a few parts to that. I think number one, where my head went to when I saw this question earlier, because you did send it over, is I think it depends on the stage you're at as a company, right? So for right now, being so early on, I think where we're functional experts in, i.e. kitchen design, how important our sound system is, like AV, security, it's like we're learning so much. And so where we're functional experts, or feel that like we really need to take a proprietary lead on our shuffleboard tables, our furniture, things like that. I think early on, we definitely want to own those pieces until they get a bit more copy and paste. And so how I've thought about it is there's certain things where they're just naturally proprietary that we really want to directly contract. Our shuffleboard, the tech that goes into there, that we'll always own, but the GC and the design builder will always need to help us coordinate because it's always going to be on their site. But I think that also changes over time, right? As things get a little bit more built out, procedures get put in place, and we get a little bit more systematic, I think it's a bit easier to transition over to the GC or design builder because there's not as much coordination or changes that need to be direct to us, right? So the way I think we've thought about it is kitchen, AV systems, security, shuffleboard tables and furniture and things like that for the time being we'll own because it's got a little bit more specialty to it. A little bit more functional expertise on our end, but over time, I think constantly reviewing where does it make more sense. Kitchen's a great example, right? It's like kitchen's constantly needs coordination from the design builder, no matter what, or coordination, no matter who contracts it. So I think it's just evaluating over time, where does it make sense to take it off our plates and just allow someone to own the scope versus where is this really proprietary to us? We need to make sure we're being super hands-on. And I think that's where it comes down to is where is that specialist knowledge needed? Where do we need to be super, super hands-on every single day to make sure that, one, it's getting done right, but also that we continue to own that process and don't let it get too far away from us. Shuffleboard tables is probably the biggest. We can't let that one go necessarily right now because of how important it is to the entire experience and how proprietary it is. But at the end of the day, they always require coordination.
And I'm sure that also changes, maybe not with the shuffleboard piece, but other ones, like as you work with maybe the same team and the more that you've built the concept, there's more of that in documentation that it becomes easier to hand those things off to other people.
Exactly. And I think exactly, right? If we're doing 5 or 6 of these years, the same kitchen every single time, it does maybe make sense to transition a bit, right? But right now we're still figuring out, is the kitchen exactly right? Is the bar exactly right? So it's like for now, it's like it makes more sense for us to keep it. And there's probably one more layer of how much is it changing from site to site, right? It's like how much is copy and paste? How much of a functional expert are you? And then how many are you trying to do a year? When you mix all those pieces together, it's like, okay, how much should we own? How much should the DB own? And I think it's just a constant conversation that we'll have with our gut, right? Where does it make sense for scopes to transition over to make our lives easier, to make your lives easier on site, things like that. And so I think it's constant reflection of when does it make sense to transition certain scopes. And I think everything's always on the table. And then over time, you get to a pretty systematic place of, okay, we know we want to own this going forward. We know you need to own this. And then once you get to a scale down the road, hopefully that's pretty clear cut of who owns what, and probably depends on the concept as well.
Totally. Well, we are almost at a full hour of talking here. So I'll just ask the last question that I ask everybody. What knowledge would you want to impart on entrepreneurs or anybody working with a new concept, starting within the sector of location-based entertainment?
It's a good question. I think the one thing I've learned over the past couple of years, especially, is it's a really, really difficult sector, right? Like in the sense of it's not black and white. You're trying to figure out what people want and experience. And so I think for me, that was the biggest thing I learned is just because it's a really cool concept, you have to constantly be thinking of what does the guest and team feel? And there's such a personal component to it and a people component to it that you can't quantify, that you have to just listen to what they're saying, get feedback from. And so when entering this space, I think there's so much room for opportunity, but constantly thinking about your team and guests first, I think are the things that over the past 2 years, I've especially been imparted on by the Red Engine team over in London. If you think about the team and the guests first and not last, that'll pay dividends in the long run. And it's just really, really hard. It's a very crowded space. There's a lot of stuff going on. I think there's opportunities for everybody, but I don't think it's for the faint of heart. And I think getting it off the ground has been challenging but rewarding. And thinking you can take it all on by yourself is very difficult. So I like I said earlier, it's like the team we have has been awesome. And building a really good team around you and realizing the guests and team come first. If you do that, hopefully it pays off in the long run.
Totally. Well, Gene, thank you so much for making time for a chat today. Really enjoyed having you on, and we wish you the very best of luck in Dallas and Austin. Really excited to see what's coming next.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day, and thanks everyone for listening in.
Thanks everybody. Take care.